scenario from a big-budget disaster film. Cataclysmic storms drive millions of people from their homes into already overcrowded cities. But it's already a reality in Bangladesh, where people are deserting flood and cyclone-prone areas and pouring into sprawling urban slums.
পানি যে তলায় গেছে আমগো বারিন্দায় পরে আমরা সবাই গর্তে নামিয়ে গেছি কি করতেছে আমগো গরু ছাগল আছিল সব গেছে খালি কয়টা গরু আছে দুই তিনটা একটা সব গেছে ছাগল আছিল আসমুর আছিল সব গেছে বান্ডবাড়ি সব
Rajol comes from the country's south, an area not only hit by devastating cyclones and floods. Rising sea levels and tidal surges have also turned the land saline, reduced crop yields, and made water unfit for drinking. She now lives with her children in a tiny one-room shack in Dhaka's largest slum.
Up to 400,000 people move to Dhaka each year, and the International Organization for Migration estimates that some 70% of the people living in Dhaka's slums moved here because of some kind of environmental shock.
Life for people like Rajol is one of uncertainty and struggle, where even a squatter's shack comes at a cost.
ধরো ওইখানে ভালো আছিল দেশের নাম কি শহরে পাওয়া যায় না এই জায়গা ধরো ভাড়া দিয়ে থা লাগে হেরা লাগে শহরে দেশেই ভালো ছিল গ্রামে যাই না ধরেন আমগো ঘর বাড়ি কিছুই নেই
Look around Dhaka. The traffic jam, the issues of informal employment, the issues of even city crime are all related with the people who are coming to Dhaka for livelihood, having no appropriate skills and having no guarantee for the future. This is the root of a many complicated problem. And at various layers of the problem, if you peel down, you'll find out that climate change and climate refugee is at the cracks of many of them.
Until recent years, Bangladesh was one of the world's most impoverished countries, but it has halved the number of people living in poverty since the start of the millennium and become nearly self-sufficient in food production. Still, the rate of poverty in areas most affected by climate change is much higher than the national average, and the gains the country has made are under serious threat.
If you look at our history, we used to have big cyclones every 10 years. Things has changed. Now it is, even within the span of last 6 years, we had 3 big cyclones. So things are changing fast. These cyclones are more fearsome.
In a normal year, 3 out of 10 Bangladeshis are affected by flooding. In a bad year, that goes up to 7 out of 10.
So if climate change impact is there, then huge population might be displaced. Their livelihood can be threatened. And we are considering that large scale migration, especially in internal displacement, can happen, and that may affect the internal stability of the country.
Over the past 20 years, Bangladesh has suffered 60% of the world's fatalities from cyclones. But working with international agencies, local civil society groups, and communities, it has significantly reduced that death toll.
The government has put in place a very elaborate, a very comprehensive system of community-based awareness raising, so everybody is aware the dangers of cyclones and that they will heed the warnings from the government the minute these warnings are issued. At the community level, there are disaster management committees in place, and there are continuous drills, and in fact these issues also taught at schools, which is very, very important.
More than 3,000 multi-purpose cyclone shelters like this have been built in the most vulnerable areas.
তখন আমরা রাস্তায় উঠে আশ্রয় নিতাম, তারপরে গাছে উঠে তারপর ছাদের উপরে যে আশ্রয় নিতাম।
This teacher works in a new school building that doubles as a cyclone shelter and now worries far less about the safety of herself, her child and her students. The building is designed to withstand winds of up to 240 kilometers per hour, as well as a magnitude 7 earthquake. It can accommodate up to 2,000 people and 200 livestock in case of an evacuation.
এখানে যারা শেল্টার নিচ্ছে তারা সবই দুস্থ মানুষ। এদের মূল সম্বল হলো তাদের গবাদি পশু। সুতরাং এই পশুগুলো যদি সাইক্লোনের সময় হারায় যায় তাহলে তারা আসলে অত্যন্ত গরিব হয়ে পড়বে, সব কিছু হারায় পড়বে।
এইটা হওয়ার পরে অনেক আমাদের সুবিধা হয়েছে, বাচ্চারা স্কুলে আসে, আমাদের পাঠদানেও সুবিধা হচ্ছে। হ্যাঁ, এর আগে আমাদের অনেক গরু ছাগল যেমন মানুষেরও অসুস্থ হয়েছে, অনেক বাচ্চা ডায়রিয়ায় মারা গেছে।
In southwestern Bangladesh, increasingly saline soil is reducing crop yields. Fishermen suffer too. The water's too salty for freshwater fish to thrive, but not salty enough for marine fish. Even water extracted from 100 meters below the ground is still unfit for human consumption, driving people like Sharifa Khatun to desperate and risky measures.
পানি যখন এই ভালো পানি যখন ছিল না তখন তো আমাদের অসুখ লেগেই থাকতো, দেখা যাচ্ছে পেটে অসুখ লেগেই থাকতো। ভালো পানি যেহেতু পেতাম না এখানে, আমাদের আশেপাশে যে শ্যালো টিউবওয়েলগুলো ছিল, যেমন লুনা পানি আর্সেনিক যুক্ত আছে, কোথাও আয়রন যুক্ত, সেগুলোও খেতাম। আমরা দেখা যাচ্ছে যে পুকুরের পিএসএফের পানিটাও নিয়ে আসতাম, আমরা ওই পানিগুলোই খেতাম।
Desalination and treatment plants like this are bringing relief, but they're still too few, and many people have to travel several kilometers to get drinking water.
এখন এই প্ল্যান্টটা হওয়ার পরে আমরা এখান থেকে পানি নিয়ে যাচ্ছি 40 টাকা লিটার দরে। আসলে পানি এত ভালো পানির মান যে এই পানি খেয়ে আমাদের মানে পেটের যে অসুখগুলো হয় মূলত যে আমাশা, ডায়রিয়া, এই অসুখগুলো নেই বললেই চলে।
Bangladesh's government, international agencies and local NGOs have sought ways to help people cope with climate adversity and change, such as creating more resilient homes and villages.
One strategy to try to reduce the harm caused by flooding has not been to just raise up the level of individual houses, but to elevate entire villages on meter-high clay plinths.
These plinth villages are equipped with solar power and rainwater collection systems. The government has also reinforced hundreds of kilometers of riverbanks and replanted tens of millions of trees. But Bangladesh is looking beyond just mitigating the impact of climate change. It wants to help people adapt to the changes. Millions of farmers have been taught to make floating vegetable gardens and to grow crops on dikes, while others are using saline-resistant strains of crops. Groups funded by agencies like the World Bank are also helping people switch from raising cows, which struggle in salty conditions, to the more hardy sheep. People here have also been taught to rear salt-tolerant mud crabs, for which there is local and international demand.
অনেক পরিবর্তন হচ্ছে, ছেলেমেয়ের লেখাপড়া শেখাতে পারতেছি। আমি এইটা হলো আগে খোলামেলা জায়গায় ছাড়তাম, চল যেত চালা করি, উঠি হলো নদীতে যেত। আমরা এটা পাওয়ার পরে অনেক উন্নত হয়েছি, ছেলেমেয়ের এখন লেখাপড়া শেখাতে পারতেছি, বা হলো এখন চলে যায় না, অনেক ভালো লাভবান হয়েছি।
Bangladesh doesn't only face the problem of flooding and rising sea levels, but some parts of the country also suffer from drought, and erratic rainfall has become an increasing problem.
Bangladesh is looking to solar energy to run irrigation systems, besides powering millions of homes. Backyard biogas plants recycle animal waste and provide a clean method of cooking. Most vehicles here run on compressed natural gas. Its carbon footprint may be tiny by global standards, but Bangladesh is striving to curb its contribution to climate change, not only to combat its effects.
Climate change negotiation is a very slow process, and we are not getting what we expected out of this international fund. If you consider till now we haven't got a huge amount of money, we can calculate in like millions of dollars, not even in hundreds of millions of dollars.
Around 75% of all climate change related expenditure that Bangladesh incur every year comes from the national budget. It's not from the donations and from foreign funding. We are the sufferer of climate change, and we're not waiting for the world to help us. We're trying to help ourselves and try and adapt it.
Bangladesh may not be able to stem the tide of climate change, but it's trying to ensure its people can adapt to and survive that change, so that millions of people would no longer be forced to follow this woman's path to the congested alleys and zinc-roofed shacks of its urban slums.